I just bought this classic Mini and the mileage is still quite low. It's only done 70k. And now it's our job to save another classic and get it back up and running and on the road. But before we get it in the garage so I can show you guys around it, we seem to have a flat tyre. So let me get it changed out for the spare and then we can get it in. The Mini is more than just a car, it's an icon. First introduced in 1959 by the British Motor Corporation, it was designed to solve every practical problem. The need for small, affordable, fuel-efficient cars in the wake of the petrol rationing. The result was revolutionary. With a transverse engine and front-wheel drive, it maximised interior space while staying compact, perfect for tight city streets and economical driving. But the Mini quickly became more than just a commuter car. Racing legend John Cooper saw its potential as a performance machine, leading to the creation of the Mini Cooper in the early 1960s. It went on to dominate in motorsport, winning Monte Carlo Rally in 1964, 1965 and even 1967, cementing its legacy as a racing champion. Beyond racing, the Mini left its mark on pop culture. It became a symbol of 1960s Britain, famously starring in the Italian Job movie, where its nimble handling and charm stole the show. Production of the original Mini spanned from 1959 to 2000, during which over 5.3 million cars were built. Today it remains a beloved classic, celebrated for its design, engineering and unforgettable personality. Now we've got the car in the garage, let's take a closer look at what we're actually working with. First things first, the inside. Right now it's a bit of a parts warehouse, boxes of spare parts everywhere. Thankfully the interior itself isn't too bad. Once we clear all of that out, it mostly just needs a good thorough clean up. Now let's talk about the bodywork. For a car of this age, it's in pretty solid condition. I don't think we'll need to do any major bodywork, just a proper polish to bring out that shine. The dashboard, the seats and the door cards seem to be in good shape. Look how small the steering wheel is, it reminds me of a go-kart. Now the boot's got a little bit of a surprise for us. Somebody's tried to give it a custom touch with this vibrant red carpet. That's not exactly what I would have chose, but hey, at least they tried. We'll be taking all of that out and giving it a much cleaner look. And as expected of a car of this age, we've got a little bit of rust on the boot. So let's just see how bad it is. That's nothing that we can't handle, and that's the best thing about these type of projects. You have to tackle each problem bit by bit until everything is done. But for now, let's check out the heart of the Mini. The classic Mini came with a variety of engine sizes over the production years, ranging from a humble 848cc to a more powerful 1.3 litre. This 1992 Mini is fitted with a 1.3 litre injection engine, which is a step forward in reliability and efficiency for its time. This beauty has been parked up for a while, so before we go any further, we need to check if it's still in good shape and it's not seized up. The first step in checking the engine is to see if it's seized. To start, I disconnected the HT leads and then removed all 4 spark plugs, which gives me access to the cylinders. Then I added some oil into each cylinder. This will help loosen things up if the pistons are stuck, and it adds a bit of compression for the first start. The engine oil looks surprisingly clean, but it was just a little low, so I topped it up with about 1 litre, just to bring it up to the maximum line. Another step towards making sure everything is in good shape. While the oil is soaking into the cylinders, I moved on to the boot to tackle a few issues. The first thing to do is to get all of the red carpet out, and of course, while I was there, I found another issue. The negative wire was super loose and brittle, which could cause starting issues or worse, sparking. So that needed replacing. First, I removed the old wire by undoing the bolt that attaches it to the car body. Once it was out, I could unscrew the 2 screws that are on the terminal to remove the old wire. With the new wire ready, I stripped just enough insulation, slotted it into the terminal and then tightened it up. Before installing the new wire, I cleaned the grounding point with a wire wheel to ensure a strong connection, and then I wiped it down with some panel wipe to remove the dust. Once that was done, I could bolt the new wire into place. To finish up, I installed a new battery to avoid any power issues. After tying up the positive and negative terminal, the car was ready for the next step. Now hopefully the oil has had enough time to seep into the cylinders. I've had a look for a bolt on the engine to turn it over by hand, but I can't really seem to find one. So I'm just going to send it. I'm going to leave the spark plugs out for now, just so the engine can turn over a little bit more freely. Let's just see what happens. So that's great news, the engine turns over. So now we can throw the spark plugs back in, add some fuel and see if we can get it running. Putting the spark plugs back in is straightforward. It's just the reverse of the removal process. Screw the plugs in, tighten them up and then push the HC leads back into place. With that sorted, I moved on to the fuel cap. After unlocking it, I topped up the tank with some fresh fuel. So the spark plugs are back in, the fuel tank is filled up, so it's time for the moment of truth. Starting the engine for the first time in who knows how long. So we're just going to give it a go. It's kind of what I expected, it wasn't going to start. I had a feeling that the fuel hadn't quite reached the engine yet, or maybe there was some air trapped in the system. To sort that out, I turned the key a few times to activate the fuel pump and to push the fuel through. This should get everything flowing properly and ready for the first start. So now hopefully we've removed some of the air from the fuel lines, so let's give it another go. That sounds more like it. There it is, it starts. Now we know the engine runs, we can move on to making the Mini look a little bit better. And that means tackling the dreadful rust on the boot. The first task was to remove the boot lid from the car. It's a straightforward job, but as always with older bolts, a little patience is key. While waiting for the bolts to soak in WD-40, I disconnected the number plate light. Once that was out of the way, I could undo the two nuts on each hinge. Next, I unscrewed the two cable straps that stopped the boot from opening all of the way. With those removed, the lid was free to come off. Now everything was loosened, I carefully lifted the boot lid off to the car. A simple step, but it's always good to take your time to avoid any scratches. With the boot lid off, it's time to tackle the red carpet that had been glued to the boot. Not exactly the look that I'm going for, but hey, it matches the red carpet in the garage. There were strips of Velcro stuck to the inside of the boot. A bit of heat softened the adhesive, allowing me to peel them off without damaging the paint underneath. Next up was inspecting the rust. Using a scotch pad on a grinder, I stripped away the paint until I reached clean metal. This part can be nerve-wracking and unfortunately, one side had spread quite a bit. After getting a clear view of the rust, I marked out the section that needed cutting. This step is all about precision, ensuring I don't cut out more than necessary. With the lines marked, I use a grinder to carefully cut away the rusted section, making sure not to overcut or damage any good metal. This is where patience really pays off. Alright, the rust has been cut out and I've cleaned back the edges to make a good surface for the welding. I've also cut two pieces of metal to fit into place from some scrap that I had laying around. Now wish me luck, it's time to get them welded in. First, I tacked the replacement pieces onto the boot, making sure they were properly aligned. If needed, I adjusted the fit with a hammer just to get everything sitting right. Once I had it where I wanted, I carefully worked my way around the panel, welding in random spots to keep the metal cool and avoid warping. To help with heat buildup, I used an air gun after a couple of welds to cool the area down, preventing any wanted distortion. Once the welds were in place, it was time to grind them down using a disc. As they say, you don't need to be a perfect welder, you just need to be good with a grinder. With the welds smoothed down, I applied a thin layer of filler to level out the surface. The great thing about this repair is that it's going to be hidden behind the number plate, so it doesn't have to be flawless. After sanding the filler smooth, it was time to apply some primer, followed by a fresh coat of British Racing Green. When spraying, I made sure to feather out the edges to avoid any hard lines, ensuring a seamless blend with the rest of the paint. While we're waiting for the boot to dry, we can start adding some shiny bits back onto the car. I managed to pick up a set of front and rear bumpers and I've already given them a polish. They're looking great and ready to go on. I also found this grille inside of the car when we first started. After a bit of cleaning, it's looking pretty good too. So let's get all of these pieces onto the car and see how it comes together. Starting with the front bumper, I lined it up and made sure everything was in the right place. Then I tightened it up with the 3 bolts underneath, 2 on the edge and 1 in the middle. Already it's looking way better. Now it's all starting to come together nicely. Next I moved on to the rear bumper. Again I lined it up with the slots on the body and then tightened up the bolts underneath. Now onto the front grille that I found inside of the car. Once it was aligned correctly, I pushed the 2 end caps on and screwed them into place. A quick job, but it really changes the look. To finish up the grille, I tightened the screws at the top that hold it to the car. Now that the paint on the boot is dry, it's time to do the reverse of the removal. I tightened up the bolts on the hinges and then screwed the straps onto each side. And just like that, the boot is all repaired. Now we've got all of them bits on, it's looking way better. But now it's time to pay attention to the paintwork. Luckily the car has been stored in a garage, but it's got a thick layer of dirt on it. So let's get it outside, give it a wash so we can see what the condition of the paintwork's in. First up, I covered the car in snow foam. Not only does it look amazing, but it's also super satisfying to do. Snow foam helps reduce scratches by lifting dirt off the surface before scrubbing, making it a key step in any wash. Once the car was fully coated, I gave it a good scrub, making sure to wipe in straight lines. I'm using a microfiber instead of a sponge. This way I have 8 sides before I have to replace it. After scrubbing every panel, I rinsed off the soap. Instead of using a jet wash, I went for a gentler approach. This prevents damage to the paint and avoids forcing water into places it shouldn't go. With the rinse complete, I dried the car using an XXL microfiber towel. The difference was already incredible, so much cleaner and shinier. Once the car was back inside, I got out the polisher. I'm using the Rupes LHR 75E dual action with a finishing polish, as I'm not doing a full paint correction here, I'm just doing it to bring back the shine and remove any micro scratches. And then it was time for Henry the Hoover to come out and help us with the interior. First, I removed the floor mats and hoovered the carpets. Surprisingly, they weren't too dirty, just a few rocks and a bit of dirt. Following the trend of those satisfying social media detailing videos, I used a brush and an all-purpose cleaner to refresh the carpet footpad. Watching the dirt lift off is always so satisfying. Moving on to the seats, I started with a quick vacuum to remove the dust. Check this out, you can lift the front seat to access the rear. It's handy, right? The back wasn't too bad either. Just needed a light vacuum to get it sorted. I wasn't entirely sure if the seat material was vinyl or leather, but it definitely needed a clean. I gave it a quick once over with some leather cleaner, followed by a wipe down to remove any grime. Once the seats were clean and dry, I applied a level and vinyl protector. This will make future cleaning way easier and help nourish the leather. To finish up, I added some to the steering wheel as well. Now it's as good as new. Now, with all of that cleaning, it's looking a million times better. The paint is bubbling in some places, but what do you expect for a car of this age? Now looking at the Mini, there's one thing that's letting it down. And I think you guys already know what that is. I decided to go with 12-inch Mini Light wheels, paired with Yokohama 165/55 tyres. An iconic choice for any classic Mini enthusiast. Mini Light wheels were originally developed in the 1960s as a lightweight magnesium competition wheels for racing and rallying. Their strength, low weight and timeless 8-spoke design made them hugely successful on the track, especially on cars like the Austin Mini. Even today, the alloy version carries the same classic look, making them a favourite for resto mod mini builds or restoring that old school mini charm. They not only add a vintage touch, but also improve the handling due to their lightweight construction. These wheels are a perfect blend of style and performance, giving this Mini a sporty period correct upgrade. Now that the wheels are on and everything is finished, it's time to take this classic Mini for a spin. While driving this classic Mini, it's easy to see why these vintage cars remain so iconic in the world of classic cars. While some go for heavily modified builds like a Honda VTEC swap, or even turning them into a classic EV Mini, there's something special about keeping an old school Mini close to its authentic roots. This kind of restoration isn't just about performance, it's about preserving the timeless charm that makes a classic car like this so unforgettable. And that's another classic saved and nearly back on the road. It still needs to get MOT, which is a safety check in the UK, but I don't really see why it wouldn't pass. The lights work, it drives really well. Now I understand why these classic Minis are so popular. I still need to replace the oil filter and fill it up with some fresh oil. And one thing that's really annoying me is the shifter knob. I definitely want to get an original one to replace it to keep the interior more OEM. If you have any stories about your first Mini, don't forget to comment it down below. And if you have any recommendations of what car you'd like to see next on the channel, maybe something modern, maybe something crash damaged. But that's it for this one. If you've enjoyed watching, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.